Did you know that every year around 600 million people across the world get sick from eating contaminated food, and that, even more shocking, about 420,000 lose their lives because of it? Older adults are among the most affected. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as we age, the immune system weakens and no longer reacts as strongly as before, which dramatically increases the risk of suffering from these infections. What is even more unsettling is that many of these threats often begin in a place we all think of as safe, the refrigerator. That very same place you trust to keep your meals fresh can, without you realizing it, turn everyday foods into silent dangers for your body. Recent studies show that storing certain foods incorrectly in the fridge not only raises the risk of food poisoning, but also leads to the loss of vital nutrients and even triggers harmful chemical reactions. The most alarming part is that most people don't have the slightest idea. Pay attention, because the first food on this list is especially concerning. It doesn't just lose its nutritional value, it can also produce harmful compounds when kept cold. Stay until the end, because what you're about to learn could protect your health and even make the difference between life and death. Number 9, tomatoes. Are you one of those people who keeps tomatoes in the fridge? If you do, you're destroying a large part of their natural benefits and, without realizing it, might be weakening your digestion and your immune system. When tomatoes are exposed to low temperatures, they lose their ability to create volatile compounds that give them their unique flavor. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showed that cold temperatures irreversibly shut down the genes responsible for developing their aroma, color, and taste. But that's not all. Chilling also destroys much of the lycopene, the powerful natural antioxidant that protects against heart disease, degenerative conditions, and even certain types of cancer. The solution is simple. Keep them at room temperature, in a well-ventilated place, away from direct light. That way, they preserve their nutrients and health benefits. And speaking of vegetables, the next one may look harmless, but when refrigerated, it sets off chemical reactions that can almost turn it into an enemy for your body. Number 8, onions. Have you noticed that when you store onions in the fridge, they turn soft, start sprouting green shoots, or develop the slimy texture? That's no coincidence. The humid environment inside the refrigerator encourages sprouting, mold growth, and cellular breakdown. Onions are also highly absorbent and can easily pick up odors and contaminants from the refrigerator, which not only affects the onion itself, but also the flavor of any dish you prepare with it. The most worrying part is that when its cell structure breaks down, the onion loses allicin, the compound responsible for its antibacterial and anti-cancer properties. The American Institute for Cancer Research notes that allicin needs to stay stable to be effective, and the humidity inside the fridge destroys that stability. So where should you store them? Keep them in a cloth bag, in a dry, ventilated place, away from the cold and away from potatoes, which speed up their decay. But if that sounds concerning, get ready, because the next food can form cancer-causing substances when refrigerated incorrectly. Number 7, bread. How many times have you stored bread in the fridge thinking it would last longer? What few people realize is that cold temperatures speed up a process called starch retrogradation, making bread hard, flavorless, and breaking down its internal structure. The biggest problem happens when you take the bread out, then put it back in again. The temperature change creates condensation. That moisture becomes the perfect environment for mold growth, which can produce dangerous mycotoxins that harm the nervous and digestive systems. The National Cancer Institute warns that some mycotoxins are linked to liver damage and immune problems in older adults. So what should you do? Freeze bread in portions if you're not going to eat it soon, but never refrigerate it. And speaking of foods that are poorly stored, the next one might seem harmless, but when kept cold, it can develop toxic substances without you even noticing. Number 6, potatoes. When refrigerated, they convert their starch into sugars. And when those potatoes are cooked at high temperatures, such as when frying or roasting, the sugars react with asparagine to produce acrylamide. Do you know what acrylamide is? The U.S. Food and Drug Administration classifies it as a potential human carcinogen. Its formation increases significantly when refrigerated potatoes are cooked at high temperatures. That means that while you might think you're enjoying perfectly golden and crispy fries, you could actually be exposing your body to a harmful substance. Store potatoes in a cool, dark, dry, and well-ventilated place, never in the refrigerator. And if that worries you, wait until you learn about a food that can produce deadly toxins if it's stored the wrong way. Number 5. Garlic. Garlic is natural medicine, a powerful antibiotic, antiviral, and heart protector. But if you store it in the refrigerator, you could be destroying all of these properties and, even worse, creating a deadly toxin. In humid and cold environments, garlic can develop Clostridium botulinum, a bacterium that produces botulinum toxin, responsible for botulism, a rare but potentially fatal disease that attacks the nervous system. According to the Mayo Clinic, this toxin can cause respiratory paralysis and is especially dangerous for older adults due to their weakened immune systems. In addition, when kept in the fridge, garlic becomes rubbery, sprouts quickly, and loses allicin, which needs stability to act as an antioxidant. Keep garlic in an open glass jar or a cloth bag, away from humidity. And speaking of delicate foods, the next one loses almost all of its natural properties when chilled. Number 4. Honey. If it is pure honey, it never needs refrigeration. When placed in the fridge, its sugars crystallize quickly, altering its texture, color, and flavor. But the real problem begins when people heat it up to return it to its liquid form, because that process can destroy essential enzymes like invertase, glucose oxidase, and diastase, which are responsible for honey's antibacterial benefits. According to the Journal of Food Science, heating crystallized honey above 104 degrees Fahrenheit destroys nearly all of its bioactive compounds. And what happens if you consume adulterated honey that has been refrigerated and then reheated? You'd essentially be eating a sugary syrup with no nutritional value. The best way to store honey is at room temperature, in a closed jar, in a dry and dark place. Now, if you thought that was concerning, wait until you hear what happens to your coffee when you keep it in the refrigerator. You might be drinking something oxidized and contaminated without even realizing it. Number 3. Coffee. Whether whole bean or ground, coffee should never go in the refrigerator. Why? Because it is highly porous and easily absorbs odors, moisture, and bacteria from the surrounding environment. In the cold, coffee quickly takes on the aromas of other foods, degrading both its flavor and composition. Moreover, the essential oils responsible for its aroma oxidize more rapidly when exposed to sudden changes in temperature. Poorly stored coffee can lose up to 70% of its antioxidants, according to studies by Pestel Ticofen. And what are the consequences of that? Oxidized coffee can increase stomach acidity, cause intestinal inflammation, and worsen digestive problems in older adults. The best recommendation is to store it in an airtight, opaque container, away from heat and light. But if you thought that was worrying, the next one is even more alarming. Number 2. Tropical fruits like bananas, mangoes, and pineapples. These fruits are not meant for the cold. If they are refrigerated before they are fully ripe, their natural ripening process stops. This doesn't just affect the flavor, it also impacts food safety. The cold damages their cell walls, leading to internal fermentation, black spots, loss of texture, and destruction of vitamin C, a key antioxidant for the immune system. In addition, according to Harvard Medical School, the texture loss in poorly refrigerated fruits can trigger fermentation, producing alcohols and gases that cause digestive discomfort. The right way to handle them is to store them outside the refrigerator, let them ripen naturally, and only refrigerate them briefly once they are completely ripe. And if you are already surprised by what a single fruit can do when chilled, wait until you learn about the number 1 food on this list, one that you probably eat every day, but when kept cold, it not only loses nutrients, it can also produce toxic compounds harmful to your body. Stay tuned, because this information could change your health forever. Number 1. Cooked rice. Rice is an essential food for more than half of the world's population. It is inexpensive, filling, easy to prepare, and pairs well with almost any meal. That's why many people cook large amounts and save the leftovers for later days. As usual, they place it directly in the refrigerator, thinking that this way it will stay fresh longer. But what few people know is that improperly stored cooked rice can turn into a silent trap for your health, and that's no exaggeration. This is one of the most common and dangerous mistakes. What's the problem? Cooked rice, if it's not cooled properly before being stored, can develop a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. This bacterium is not completely destroyed by cooking because it forms heat-resistant spores. When cooked rice remains at room temperature for more than an hour, those spores can germinate and multiply rapidly. The result is food poisoning that can appear between 1 and 5 hours after eating contaminated rice. Symptoms include nausea, intense vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. For people with weakened immune systems, such as older adults, the effects can be much more severe. And pay attention, because this can happen even if you store it in the refrigerator. If you put the rice in the fridge while it's still hot, without letting it cool a bit, condensation can form inside the container, creating extra humidity that helps bacteria grow. In addition, if you don't reheat it to a high enough internal temperature, the toxins that form are not destroyed. So how can you store cooked rice safely? Here's a practical guide that every kitchen should follow. Cool the rice quickly. Do not leave it at room temperature for more than an hour. Spread it out on a tray so it cools evenly. Store it in an airtight container and place it in the refrigerator only after it reaches room temperature. Eat it within 20 to 48 hours. Although many people keep it for 3 or 4 days, the risk of food poisoning increases with each passing day. Reheat it thoroughly. Make sure it's hot inside, not just warm. If it smells bad or has a sticky or overly moist texture, don't eat it. From the nutritional point of view, besides the bacterial risk, refrigerated cooked rice also loses part of its original texture, flavor, and nutrients, especially brown rice, which contains more natural oils and can turn rancid and develop an unpleasant taste if stored for too long. Rice is one of the 5 foods most often linked to food poisoning caused by poor storage, along with pasta, boiled eggs, processed meats, and seafood. Did you know that something as simple as cooked rice can hide such a dangerous bacterium? How long do you usually keep rice in your refrigerator? And although you might think that with these 9 foods the list is over, listen carefully, because what comes next is even more important. These are mistakes many people make every day in their kitchens, without realizing they may be opening the door to invisible bacteria, serious food poisoning, and the loss of essential nutrients. The most alarming part is that these mistakes are rarely mentioned in other videos because most people don't even consider them dangerous. That's why if you've made it this far, stay a little longer, because this information can help protect your loved ones, especially if they are older or have a weak immune system. What you'll discover now could mean the difference between living a healthy life and ending up in the hospital unexpectedly. Extra food, raw eggs, or eggs with small cracks. This mistake is more common than you might think. Many older adults place their eggs directly in the refrigerator door. It seems harmless, but it's actually risky. Why? Because the door is the warmest and most unstable part of the refrigerator. Every time it's opened, the eggs experience sudden temperature changes that weaken their shells. And if an egg has even the tiniest invisible crack, it becomes the perfect entry point for a dangerous bacterium, Salmonella. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service, eggs with micro-cracks can easily become contaminated in poorly organized refrigerators. Salmonella can cause severe diarrhea, fever, and vomiting, which can become serious for older adults. Another common mistake is not cleaning the egg carton, which may contain traces of dirt or bacteria from the packaging process. So what should you do? Keep eggs in their original carton and store them inside the refrigerator, not on the door. Never refrigerate cracked or dirty eggs. And if possible, eat them well cooked, especially if your immune system is weak. If you found that worrying, wait until you hear about the next mistake. Many people think they're preserving nutrients, but they're actually damaging their gut health. This mistake is very common with washed and refrigerated fruits. You wash the fruit and immediately put it in the fridge. It seems like a hygienic habit, but it can be more harmful than helpful. When you wash fruits like apples, pears, or grapes, the moisture that remains on the surface, even in tiny droplets, creates the perfect environment for mold and bacteria to grow. And the most concerning part is that the refrigerator doesn't kill them. It preserves them or, even worse, spreads them to other foods through contact. The Journal of Food Protection reports that bacterial growth on moist refrigerated fruit can increase by up to 300% within the first 3 days if the fruit isn't completely dry. For older adults with low immunity, eating contaminated fruit can cause anything from intestinal infections to severe food poisoning. So what should you do? Wash fruit only right before eating it, not before storing it. If you must wash it in advance, dry it completely with paper towels and store it in a ventilated container. Never leave it wet or in contact with cooked food. Now tell me, do you wash all your fruits as soon as you get home from the grocery store and then put them straight in the fridge? Leave your answer in the comments, because this can help many people who don't realize what's happening inside their refrigerators. And that's how we close this list. As you've seen, the refrigerator is not always a safe place for every food. Some lose their nutrients, flavor, and texture, while others can silently become a danger to your health and your family's. Most kitchen mistakes don't come from ignorance, but from habit. Yet for older adults, those small habits can have big consequences. Today, there are no more excuses to keep making them. Make a change in your kitchen, check your refrigerator, and share this information with your family. Did any of these foods surprise you? Have you made any of these mistakes without realizing it? Leave a comment and tell us which one shocked you the most. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your loved ones, and help protect their health.